The baby's monitor screams first. Then my daughter screams. Then the whole cabin turns. Her tiny body is gone from my arms. Gone. A woman in a cobalt blue blazer is holding my 17-day-old daughter like a bag she found in the overhead bin. My baby's oxygen line rips free. The soft beeping turns into one long flat tone. She was touching my armrest, the woman says. I don't care whose baby this is. I don't move. I don't breathe. 22 years of talking people down from the worst moments of their lives has taught me one thing above all others. Panic kills. Calm saves. But my hands are shaking anyway, because this is not a stranger's crisis tonight. This is my daughter, born 10 weeks early, 4 pounds 2 ounces, home from the NICU for exactly 6 days. The woman's grip shifts. My daughter's face goes from pink to pale in front of 40 strangers at 31,000 feet. Ma'am, I say, put my daughter down, right now. She looks at me like I'm an insect. And who do you think you are? I don't answer yet. I reach into my jacket instead. But to understand why this moment changed everything, I need to take you back to where this all began. My name doesn't matter yet. What matters is that 6 days earlier, my daughter Maren came home from the hospital weighing less than a bag of sugar. Her lungs were still learning how to work. Her skin was still translucent enough to see the veins underneath, like a small blue river map. Every breath she took, I counted. Every night, I woke up 4 times just to watch her chest rise. My wife stayed behind in Ohio to finish physical therapy after a car accident 8 months earlier had shattered her hip. She couldn't fly yet. So it was me, alone, flying our daughter to Sacramento to meet her grandmother for the first time. A grandmother who had a stage 4 diagnosis and a doctor's estimate that gave her, at most, 2 months left. This flight wasn't a vacation. It was a race against time, wrapped in a blanket, held against my chest. I had packed everything a NICU nurse told me to pack. Extra oxygen tubing, a pulse oximeter clipped to her foot, a letter from her pediatrician explaining her fragile lung condition, in case anyone questioned why a baby this small was flying. I had rehearsed calm words for turbulence, for crying, for every version of hard I could imagine. I had not rehearsed for a stranger in a blazer. The cabin that morning felt almost peaceful. Sunlight came through the small oval windows in soft gold stripes. A flight attendant named Denise smiled at Maren and called her the tiniest passenger we've ever had. An older man across the aisle offered to hold my coffee so I could adjust her blanket. For 20 minutes, the world felt gentle. 23 years of de-escalation training had taught me to read a room before it turned dangerous. That morning, the room felt safe. I didn't know a woman 2 rows back was already building a list of complaints against everyone near her. She noticed the small bassinet-style car seat first, then the oxygen tubing, then me. I saw her before she saw me. Mid-50s, hair pulled back so tight it looked painful, a cobalt blue blazer with matching trousers pressed into knife-edge creases, a designer bag set on the seat beside her like it had its own boarding pass. She sat with her shoulders squared, chin lifted, the posture of someone who believed every room existed to serve her. Her first small incident happened before we even took off. A teenage boy accidentally bumped her elbow reaching for his backpack. She turned on him instantly. "Do you have any idea how much this blazer cost?" she snapped. "People like you should fly in the back." The boy apologized twice. She didn't acknowledge it. She simply turned back around, satisfied, like she had won something. I felt the small cold drop in my stomach that experienced observers get, the one that says this person is not finished for the day. Then her eyes drifted toward me, toward the tiny car seat, toward the tubing taped gently to my daughter's cheek. Her expression shifted from irritation to something worse. Interest. Retention hook. What I didn't know yet was that the worst 30 minutes of my daughter's short life were about to begin, and there was nothing gentle left in this woman at all. The first move came 20 minutes after takeoff. Maren stirred, made a soft newborn cry, the kind that sounds more like a kitten than a scream. I began rocking the car seat gently, the way the NICU nurses taught me. The woman turned around fully in her seat. "Excuse me," she said. "That thing needs to stop." "She's a baby," I said quietly. She'll settle in a moment. I paid for first-class peace, not a nursery. We're in economy, I said. She ignored that entirely. Move her, or move yourself. I don't care which. A flight attendant, Denise, arrived within seconds. Ma'am, infant cries are normal on flights. There's nothing. I want a seat change, the woman interrupted. For me, away from this. Denise offered to check availability. The woman crossed her arms and stared straight ahead, like she'd already won a war no one else knew was happening. I focused on my daughter instead. Her tiny fingers curled around mine. Her breathing steadied. I told myself this was manageable. I told myself worse things had happened in my career and I had walked through fire calmly before. I made a conscious decision right there to give this woman nothing to escalate. I didn't know yet how little that decision would matter to her. 12 minutes later, she was out of her seat, standing in the aisle beside me. Your baby's wire thing is touching my blanket, she said, pointing at the oxygen tubing. It's medical equipment, I said. It's not touching you. I can see it. I feel contaminated. A woman across the aisle, gray-haired, gentle-voiced, tried to help. Ma'am, it's just a small tube for oxygen. The baby needs it. Nobody asked you, the blazer woman snapped. A young man too rose up, spoke up too. She's not bothering anyone. Please sit down. The woman ignored them both completely. She reached toward the car seat. I moved my hand between her fingers and my daughter's blanket. Not aggressive, just final. Don't touch her, I said. Her face twisted. I will speak to whoever is in charge of this flight. She stormed toward the front, blazer sharp against the cabin light, heels clicking like a countdown. 3 minutes later, everything changed. She returned with a flight attendant supervisor, a tall man named Marcus, visibly exhausted already. Sir, Marcus said carefully, this passenger says the infant's equipment poses a hygiene concern. It doesn't, I said. I have medical documentation. The blazer woman's voice rose. Her crying is a safety issue. I want this baby moved to the back galley. There is no galley seating for passengers, Marcus said. Then ground this flight until someone fixes this. Whispers spread through nearby rows. A man across the aisle quietly lifted his phone and began recording. An older woman leaned toward her husband, shaking her head. A teenage girl mouthed the word wow to her friend. Denise returned to help Marcus. Both tried reasoning gently. The blazer woman raised her voice louder each time, until finally she stepped toward my row and reached directly into the car seat. She lifted my daughter into her arms. The oxygen line pulled taut, then tore free. She was touching my armrest, she said. I don't care whose baby this is. The monitor's low, steady beep turned into a single flat alarm tone. I did not think. I acted. I reached forward with both hands, calm, precise, practiced from 100 emergencies that had trained my body to move faster than my fear. Ma'am, I said, put my daughter down, right now. She looked at me like I was beneath her notice. And who do you think you are? I took my daughter back into my arms first. Reconnecting the oxygen line took 4 seconds. For seconds that felt like 4 years. Only after Marin's monitor beeped steady again did I answer. I reached into my jacket pocket. The crowd around us had gone silent. Phones lifted, breath held. I pulled out a leather badge case, opened it slowly, held it at eye level, not for her, but for the flight attendants standing behind her. Chief Elena Marsh, I said quietly. Sacramento Police Department. Nobody moved for a full 3 seconds. A woman near the window whispered, "Oh my God!" The blazer woman's mouth opened, closed, opened again. That doesn't mean anything up here, she said, though her voice had lost its certainty completely. It means everything you just did. Assault of a minor, interference with a medical device, and endangerment of an infant passenger. Happened in front of a police chief, 3 flight attendants, and at least 4 cameras. Her face changed in stages. First confusion, then disbelief, then a slow, sinking terror as she understood the floor beneath her had disappeared. I didn't. I was just... She wasn't supposed to be crying, she stammered. You don't get to decide when a baby is allowed to cry, I said. Marcus stepped forward immediately, radio already at his mouth, requesting law enforcement meet the aircraft on arrival. Denise knelt beside me, checking Marin's oxygen line with practiced hands, murmuring reassurance to both of us. The blazer woman tried once more. This is ridiculous. I have rights. So does my daughter, I said. And you just violated hers. I said nothing else. There was nothing else that needed saying. My authority had never come from volume. Came from truth spoken once, clearly. The plane sat in a strange hush for the next 40 minutes. The kind of silence that follows something everyone knows they will describe differently for years, yet remember exactly the same. When we landed, 2 uniformed officers boarded before a single other passenger deplaned. I stood, Marin secure against my chest, oxygen line intact, monitor beeping in its normal patient rhythm. I briefed the officers the way I had trained hundreds of my own officers to give briefings, clear, sequential, without embellishment. She removed a premature infant from her father's arms without consent, disconnected medical oxygen equipment, and refused 3 separate requests from crew members to stop. One officer turned to Marcus. Do you have footage? Marcus nodded toward 3 passengers already holding up their phones. The blazer woman attempted her final defense. He provoked me. His baby's crying was a form of harassment. The officer studied her for a long moment. Ma'am, you're being detained for assault and endangerment of a child. The words landed on the cabin like a verdict. A collective breath released around us. Relief, disbelief, quiet satisfaction all at once. An older woman near the front called out, "Finally!" A teenage boy simply said, "Yes." The blazer woman was walked up the aisle in handcuffs, her designer bag left behind on her seat, her posture no longer commanding anything. Passengers watched her pass in silence. Nobody looked away. Nobody offered sympathy. She looked smaller with every step. At the door, she turned back one final time. "This isn't over," she said. "It is for you," the officer replied and guided her out. The cabin exhaled as one. Afterward, the air itself felt different, lighter, warmer, like a storm had rolled off the wing and left clean sky behind it. The gray-haired woman who had tried to help earlier crossed the aisle and gently touched my shoulder. "I've flown for 30 years, she said. "I've never seen anyone handle that with so much calm." "Practice," I said. "Just a lot of practice." A young mother too rose back, leaned over with tears in her eyes. "I almost didn't fly today. My son has asthma. People like her make parents afraid to travel with sick kids." "You did nothing wrong," I told her. "Neither did your son." Denise knelt beside me one more time before we deplaned, checking Marin's tiny face, her tiny fingers, her tiny, steady breath. "She's a fighter," Denise said softly. "She has to be," I whispered back. "She came in early. She's been fighting since day one." I held my daughter a little tighter, feeling her heartbeat against my palm, feeling my own hands finally stop shaking. For a moment, none of it mattered, not the badge, not the title, not the years of training. Just a father and his daughter, and the quiet certainty that she was safe again. I thought about the flight for weeks afterward, replaying it slowly, the way you replay any moment that could have gone differently. The woman's name, we later learned, was Diane Coswell, a regional HOA board president known, according to 3 separate neighborhood associations, for a long pattern of similar behavior: noise complaints against children, confrontations with disabled residents over parking spaces, a prior formal warning for grabbing a toddler's stroller during a community meeting dispute. She was charged with assault, endangerment of a minor, and interference with a medical device. She lost her HOA board position within the month, removed by unanimous vote after the footage from our flight reached local news. 2 other families came forward afterward with their own stories about her, encouraged by watching someone finally hold her accountable in public. My daughter recovered fully from the incident. Her pediatrician confirmed no lasting damage, though I still check her oxygen line more times a day than I probably need to. Old habits, born from real fear, take time to loosen their grip. My wife cried when I told her the story over video call that night, part relief, part fury, part disbelief that a stranger could reach for a baby that small without a single thought for the fragility in her hands. The unexpected outcome came weeks later. The airline updated its crew training to include specific protocol for medical equipment interference, citing our flight directly. Somewhere in a training manual now, a paragraph exists because of one woman's cruelty and one father's calm. Sometimes the worst moments create the clearest change. Looking back now, months removed from that flight, I understand something I didn't fully grasp in the moment. Authority was never the thing that protected my daughter that day. It was patience. It was the discipline to stay steady when everything in me wanted to react instead of respond. The badge simply made the truth visible to everyone else in that cabin. But the truth had been there from the very first second her fingers touched my daughter's blanket. Some people mistake gentleness for weakness. They see a quiet father holding a fragile baby and assume there is nothing behind that calm. But real strength has never needed to raise its voice to be heard. It only needs to be steady, prepared, and certain until the moment it must speak. If this story reminded you that the people who protect us are not always the loudest ones in the room, you already know what to do.